It is with great pleasure and enthusiasm that we welcome you all to the workshop on analytics. This workshop will help us maximize opportunities with effective CV strategy making. This workshop will be hosted by our esteemed alumnus Shai Krishna, who currently holds the position of Analytics Manager at Godrej Capital. In today's fast paced world, the field of analytics has emerged as a crucial driver of success for businesses across the industries. Sai Krishna, with his wealth of experience and expertise, will guide you through the art of crafting an effective CV that will set you apart from the competition and maximize your chances for securing valuable career opportunities. With this, I will hand over the floor to Sai Krishna. Just, uh, just a logistic, just the logistical issues that I will list down before you. The workshop would be followed by a brief Q&A where you will be given right to unmute yourself and you can pose your questions to Sai Krishna. Due to the paucity of time, we will have to take limited questions. You can reach out to Sai Krishna through email or LinkedIn. Otherwise, he would be more than happy to help. Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
Uh, Thanks, Rembagam. That was a very well worded introduction. Cool. So I'll just quickly switch on my camera, give you a little background of myself. Yeah, am I visible, guys?
Yeah, you are visible. Yeah.
Cool. So hi guys, I'm Sai Krishna. I am a master's graduate from Department of Energy Science 2022 batch. And yeah, I joined Godrej Capital as an analytics manager. So Godrej Capital is basically a finance kind of a company. So I look after their strategy analytics, portfolio analytics, and risk analytics over there. So yeah, I think without much ado, we'll just quickly dive into the resume part. Right, so before that, I just wanted to ask a few quick questions just to understand the attendee base that we have. Right. So I'll ask you a question. The only thing you have to do is raise your hands, and we can have a count on it. Right. Cool. So I just how many of you guys are in the second year of your masters right now? Okay, so about, acha, I'm still getting the responses. Cool. So about 20 people out of 80. So shall I assume how many of you guys are from bachelors? Okay, so about 25. And the remaining would be first year guys. So now the 15, the hands that I see, those are of first year guys, right? Okay, cool, cool. Thanks, guys. Can you just all raise down your hands? I just have a few questions. Okay, how many of you guys come with WorkX in analytics domain or in any domain as such? Okay, ठीक है चलेगा. Raise down कर लो. How many of you guys have learned machine learning or have learned machine learning either from IIT Delhi or from another course outside? Right. So that's a fairly smaller pool, I think. Of the 100 attendees, about 20 guys have done outside. Okay, okay. Chalega, thanks, guys. You all can raise down your hands. I'll just quickly share my screen. Just let me know once you can see the screen, okay?
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay, uh, sure. Chalega, thanks. So, right. So there was a reason why I asked you these set of questions, right? So the primary reason was to understand the kind of people you'll be competing with when you're going to give your interview or you'll be writing a written test, right? So basically, when you submit your resume, what is it happening, right? Whoever the interviewer is, he'll be going through all the set of resumes he's got. So you got to have a fair understanding of who you guys are competing with. So you guys will be competing with people who have cleared their bachelor's and they're doing their BTech from IIT Bombay. Right. You guys will be competing with people who are in PG, but again, they have a lot of work ex with them. They know how corporate works, and that's a very big add-on. You will be competing with those people uh, who have a lot of experience working with data. You will be competing with those people who got a lot of experience working on models, right? So why is understanding this base very important? So that you can use that knowledge to acquire the necessary knowledge that is required to able to crack the job, right? Is that Does that make sense? I think I can't see. Yeah. Cool. So I'll just now quickly walk you through what my approach was when I made my resume and what impact it created. Right. So first and foremost, it was very important for me to understand what kind of companies will be rolling in. Right. So when you look into analytics, it's not a very niche of a domain. You have a lot of scope going on around. You have marketing analytics, you have risk analytics, you have strategy analytics, you have campaign analytics, uh, you have analytics for consultants, you have analytics for small companies, and all of that is going on. So there's a bunch of things that you need to know before making a resume. And one resume, so let's say that you make a resume for a BFSI, right? That resume will not necessarily be the most optimum resume for an FMCG type of a company, right? Because if let's say if you want to apply for finance kind of a company, right? So the kind of projects they'll be interested in would revolve around classification models, would revolve around fraud detection, would revolve around credit risk management, something to do with financial analysis, a little bit of financial background, right? But those same set of qualities which were highlighted for a BFSI would not be much of an importance for an FMCG, right? What would an FMCG require? An FMCG guy would require that you work on campaign analytics, that you work on marketing analytics, that you have a basic understanding of what that FMCG does, what that FMCG market represents, right, and how are the trends there and all of that. Right? So they won't necessarily expect you to know trends, but then to have a fair understanding of if given a data, how to look at it. Right. So I just wanted to know how many of you guys know the difference between what a data analyst does, what a business analyst does, and what a data scientist does.
So the thing is that we have disabled the mic option for the participants, but they can still write in chat if they want to. So these
Acha.
I can't because sometimes it
I
creates
think, uh,
somebody
no,
wants
I
to,
do understand.
they can raise their hands and they can answer if they want to.
Okay, so I'll have a few questions. So maybe for that particular guy who's raised up their hand, can we allow them?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Can you please allow Soban, right? I think he had raised his hand. Do you want to answer, Soban?
Guys, you can raise your hand if you want to answer this question. The difference between data and business analyst, I guess. This was a question of side.
Yes. Uh, I think no, it's not a problem. Cool. We'll go ahead, right? We'll go ahead. So basically, what so all of these terms are very correlated, right? So all of these are subsets of each other. What does a data scientist do, right? Data scientist not necessarily requires a lot of information regarding the company and the business, right? The prime work of a data scientist is to build a model, right? But looking after the implementability of a model comes under the purview of a business analyst or a data analyst, right? So what does a data analyst necessarily do? What basically a data analyst does is it helps identify the company do better in that particular domain, and for that they also require functional knowledge. So for a data analyst, it's not a lot of modeling that goes around. What majorly goes around for their day-to-day task would be dwelling with the company's data, doing certain analysis, finding the niche where the business can grow, finding the niche where the business is at risk, and then presenting it to your higher ups. So there's a story that you build, that you need to build around every presentation that you give, right? So as the name suggests, business analyst or a data analyst. So you are essentially analyzing that particular company's performance and helping that company aid do better, right? So why am I giving you this background? Because this background will tell you what kind of skills that you need to have on your resume, right? So if you go around putting a lot of deep learning models into your resume, that is not going to help you crack an analytics job. If you want an analytics job, you need to have the necessary skills that are required in an analytics job. And given the particular recession hitting, not particular recession, but the kind of market that has been right now, it's difficult. I'm not sure how it will be performing when you guys are out for your interviews, but I think it will be a little bit difficult for you guys to get a job. So you'll have to be at your A game, be the best version of yourself, and show that on your resume so that you have a good chance. Now we narrow our discussion down to the resume and how you need to make it, or essentially how I went about making that resume. So resume does not necessarily mean that you dump all of the achievements and all the information that you know about yourself into that one single page, and you necessarily cannot do that, right? So what you need to understand is what purposes that resume is serving for you and for the interviewer. So you need to be in the boots of your interviewer who is in that data analyst role for a while, and then see what will he be requiring of a resume, and what are the things that he'll be looking into that resume, what are the key points that he would like to see in the resume, right? That is where you need to start your thinking from, and that will be your base to creating your resume. And what I know from my experience is resume sets the base for the interviewer. So what it does is the interviewer knows ki acha isne ye likha hai, so this is where I will start, right? And then if you make your resume smartly enough, it also decides the flow of your interview. And that is very essential, because if you don't control the interview, it will be very difficult for you to crack the interview, right? वो interviewer को क्या है, he'll just keep on. So he'll not have a set of questions that he'll ask. He'll ask you questions, and basis your answer, he'll ask you questions on that, right? So if your resume does not go all the is not all haywire, then your interview will also be not like that. Your resume, as structured your resume, the more structured your interview process, right? So I think we've covered a few points here: the requirement, the competition, what the roles are, and how does an interviewer see the resume as, right? Now what I had done when I was in my final year was I made only two resumes, and both of them were for analytics. A bunch of my friends were making. So I think you have six possible resumes that you can make, right, for all the different kinds of jobs you want, right, Zembakam? Hello.
Yeah, I guess it is 6. Yeah, it's 6, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So, right. So if you make I don't know, like for me, my approach by making the resumes was I was clear that I wanted to get into an analytics job or something related to data science, right? Revolving around data science. So me making a core resume would not serve the purpose. Also, I would have to spend time. So let's say if my resume for a for a core job got shortlisted, right? So I would have to spend time reading there, and my possibility of cracking that job would be really minuscule given my interest lied in analytics, right? So I made only two resumes. One was a little related to analytics, the other was mostly aligned towards data scientist, and I completely uh, went out to learn this. And I eventually, so what that helped me with was to narrow down the topics that I had to cover. Once that is done, once I know that what I have to do and once I know what I do not have to do, it becomes easier for me to focus on the things that I have to, right? And there's a structure that I follow, and then I eventually uh, be a better self of mine when the interview starts, right? Cool. So I'll just walk you through one of the resumes I have and what my personal belief is when it comes to a resume, right? I think it could be otherwise for other guys. Right. So is my screen visible, guys? Can you see my resume?
Yeah, it is visible, sir.
Right. So one of the best things with IIT Delhi is you have a set format. You don't have to, go around searching for a format for the topics and what else and whatnot, right? So you have the format set with you. What you need to work on is the flow of what you want to show first. What importance, like for that role, what particular things would be more important? As I said, looking for the perspective of an interviewer or a recruiter. What would he be interested looking into? And then, yeah, what necessarily is the content that you put in, right? How you represent it, and so on and so forth. So, I frankly did not have any certifications, right? Because what I did was I talked to a bunch of people. Actually, I talked to a lot of people to understand what it means when they want to see at a resume, the recruiter, like what would they like to see in a resume, what not, what has more weightage, what does not actually mean to them, right? Uh, so, firstly, it was very important for me to identify what not to put in the resume given the limited space that we have. So, what I knew was me being the captain of my basketball team in my bachelor's would not essentially play any role in me cracking a job, right? The recruiter won't be like, अच्छा तुमको analytics नहीं आता पर तुमने basketball खेला आजा मैं तेरे को recruit करूंगा, right? These kinds of things. Also, like let's say you are very efficient with designing, right? You've done a bunch of courses on let's say something that's not related to analytics, right? It's good that you've done it, but is that actually necessary for you for an analytics resume? No, right? So it's very important that you list down the things that is required of a resume, that is required of an analytics role, and then see what all things you have, and then you see what all things you're missing, and then you work on what all things you're missing, and then you collate all of this and make the resume that gets shortlisted all the way, right? And then you have the flow of the resume. So what do I mean when I say flow of the resume? It's, let's say, the kind of projects that you put in, right? So you can't have projects which are all over the place. You need to be it in a structure where you're telling them that you have also worked on uh, easier things, you worked on harder things, you worked on complex things also, right? You cannot have all easy things जैसे कि सिर्फ classification models पे काम किया है, Titanic data set पे काम किया है, and all of those things. So that will not buy, right? That won't sell. The recruiter won't actually be interested in that. So you need to give him a perspective of why analytics role, why the projects that you worked on, given whatever background you're coming from, right? So that is one thing that you need to look after. Now, when it comes to so a lot of people come to me asking ki, should I do this course, should I do that course, what is the best machine learning course? You need to understand that it's not necessarily about the certification, because certification, it's very easy to get a certification in today's world, right? You just go through the Udemy course, you get a certification at the end. You don't have a hard and fast test that you need to give. So why people are not very inclined towards certification? It's because of the authenticity, right? But when it comes to your projects, when it comes to your internships, when it comes to your work, those are more authentic. So given a resume, anybody with work would, in the relevant field, would be given more importance with to someone who has some internships in analytics, or to someone who has got a bunch of projects, as compared to someone who has just done certifications, right? If you just do 10 certifications and you put 10 of those, it's not going to help you in any way, right? Because the recruiter won't be satisfied by those certifications. He wants to know that, okay, you've done that certification, but can you actually implement that, right? Knowing a model and implementing a model are two very different things. Knowing to apply something and being able to implement and deliver with those corporate deadlines, it's a different thing. So that shows when you put on projects, that shows when you show them that you've done an internship, that shows when you do work experience, right? So try to think of the resume in that way. Ki what are the things that I can put in the resume which will actually appeal to the recruiter, right? And I just walk you through the content that I had written, right? What all things what I felt was relevant for me, right? And then we could go on what are the essential things that are required of an analytics. We have some time left. Cool. So when I started making my just huh. So when I started with my resume, I was pretty clear of the sort of things that I did not want to put, right? So that left me with a whole. I was very sure that I did not want to put any certifications, or maybe a few certifications, but then I unfortunately couldn't complete any certification. So I thought of something that would be more appealing to the recruiter. But given the short timeline I had, there was only one way that I could do that, and that was through projects, right? So I decided that selling my qualities or selling my qualities for data analytics through certification would not be that important, would not be that fruitful as compared to selling it through projects, right? So I went on, I did certain projects, right? Now when I was doing my projects, I was looking at what are the skills that is required of, let's say, an analytics person, right? So what I found out was, you should be able to you should know a bunch of statistical tools, right? What is the score, what is R squared test, what is precision recall, why to use accuracy, why not to use, when can you use accuracy, when can you not use accuracy, what are the different kinds of data set, right? You have skewed data sets, you have linear data sets, you have population kind of data sets. So you need to know a bunch about, when I say statistics, do not, so there's a lot when it comes to statistics, right? But you need to know about those things that work with data, like mean, median, mode, Bayes theorem, right? Then uh, most importantly, you should know distributions, right? Because when you work with data, you need to know what kind of distribution that particular data would be following, right? So some might have a Poisson distribution, some might have a bell curve kind of a distribution, right? So I put in some projects that were on classification, some projects. So basically, I wanted to cover a lot of the basics, right? I did not do a lot of machine learning, so I wanted to focus most on the basics and show as much as possible through as little of work that I can do. So that's why most of my, so if you can see my initial two projects, right? So this is on ensemble method. So if you know ensemble methods or not, so what ensemble methods basically do is, it's a bunch of different methods that you use, and then you give weight to them, and then finally you come with a final model, which is a coalition of three different types of models. Then I had a comparative analysis on different types of regression models. Uh, then I did some projects on. So this is the resume that I had built for a BFSI sector, right? And that actually worked because I had did these three projects, which were the most important projects, and my whole interview was revolving around these three projects, right? Why? Because one was signature fraud detection, one was credit card fraud detection. So when it comes to financial segments, the most important thing that they want to is contain risk, right? So you need to be able to contain risk, and these two projects actually sold a lot. Most of so let's say for the second interview that I had, which was about 1 hour, about 45 minutes was on these three projects, right? So this is why I was saying that you should know what kind of sector that you're applying into and have a particular resume, given that you're very you've thought through that you want to enter into analytics only, so that you can use those 6 slots, make 6 resumes for different sectors. Let's say FMCG, let's say BFSI, let's say some marketing kinds of analytics, let's say some open-end analytics, which comes from what was that company? Yeah, EXL Analytics, right? So EXL Analytics is a company that does analytics for all kinds of companies. So you can have a very generic kind of a resume for them. So this is what you need to look into. This is what I mean when I said that the flow, the content of your resume will actually, if it is well structured enough, it actually controls the flow of your interview as well. Now because they saw credit, they pounced onto it, right? And then it was in my hands how I took it from one topic to another into those using my projects that I had, right? Then one essential part that you need to put in your resume is your technical skills, right? Because these actually play a lot of the role. So why? Because uh, all the skills that you have, let's say you know 10 different models, but you can't have 10 projects listing 10 different models, right? Or maybe you know 10 different tools, but you can't show projects or certifications or everything using those. So this gives you a very small space that covers all of those. So what does this do? This helps you put those keywords in which are very essential for analytics roles, and while taking as minimum space as possible, right? Which increases which increases the chances of your resume getting shortlisted. Because given two resumes, let's say one has different types of Python libraries and SQL and all of that, and the other one that does not have. So clearly, as a recruiter, I'll at least give this first guy a chance to at least be able to explain, right? I'll know ki maybe he knows something about it, or he knows that some of this exists, as compared to someone who has not put any of this at all, right? He was just focusing on putting bunch of 15 projects, right? But that does not help. So it has to be a balance between all these components, where you show that you're not all analytics, you know a bunch of other stuff also, but you know what is essential also. You have done some position of risk, you've done something apart from your academics also. Because being in corporate, you are not confined to your work, right? You're confined to the growth of your team as well. You have a lot of work where you need to collaborate with different teams, and that is why they ask you, have you worked with teams or not? Do you know how to talk to people or not? That is where this position of responsibility comes into picture, right? If you have different kinds of roles that you've played in your organization, that gives confidence to the recruiter that yes, if I put him in a certain scenario where he needs to talk to people, he can actually deliver, because he knows how things are, what is the language that I use when I talk to someone who is elder to me, when someone's senior to me, and all of that. So that is the relevance of the position of responsibility sector, right? So I had done a few things where I co-founded something. Then I was into my alumni cell in the previous organization. I was in the alumni. I was in OCS. I was a part of Trist as well. So, but again, you need to find out what is actually relevant. So I did not put the position of responsibility that I held in IIT Delhi, because those would automatically be populated in the second sheet, right? So that is why it did not make any sense to put it in the first page. This is what I mean when I say you should know what to put and what not to put in a smart manner. Now, one very essential thing is how you actually represent the data. So if you remove the boards out of all of this, it's just a bunch of text that has filled the screen, right? But you need to be able to direct your recruiter to certain things that are important. And what are those certain things? What is the kind of model that you've used, right? What was the size of your data? So he does not want to look at the entire English, he just wants to look at the key points. Now it is in your hands how you show them the key points. And one very efficient way is to bold certain things, underline certain things, put certain things into slant or italic version. All of that actually works, because what is that doing? That is diverting the gaze of the recruiter into a certain direction, and that makes a preconceived notion of that particular project, right? If you just put simple English, that is not going to sell. You need to make it attractive. You need to make that project sound fancy as well, because he will of course be inclined towards knowing what is inside the whole project. But what one more thing that he wanted to that the recruiter actually wants is, how well can you summarize what you have done in 2 sentences? That is why you need to be able to put as little information as possible, while giving out as much about your project as possible, right? That is where you can use all of these new gen AI tools and come up with actual words that will help you do that. But again, one thing that you need to take care of is you cannot put all sentences, because what happens with these AI tools is sometimes they lose out on the whole context that you want to give. So maybe what you can do is make whatever content that you want to put in, and then maybe paraphrase it. That may help you, rather than getting it entirely written. So what I did was, I had 2 3 things that I wanted to show light. One was the method that I used, one was the sample size, and one was what was the output of it. So because essentially these 3 other things that are shown when it comes to a machine learning model that you want to show. And if you can see, for all particular projects I did the same thing. For my first project, I showed them the kind of test that I used, the models that I used, the sample size of my data, and what was the final result that I had. Right. Again, in the second model, my second project, I showed them these different models, and what was the final output that I had gotten. Again, over here, the same thing again. Yeah, so this was one way where I thought it would be better to not let them read through everything, because the quicker they can go through your resume, the quicker it is for them, the better impression you have on them, right? Because they know how that you are that you know how to present something, and that is essentially what you'll be doing in your job. Given a particular data, you need to find out trends and then be able to smartly convey that in a whole story, right? And this is your first step towards it. Right, I think that covers most of what I wanted to show here. So I just are the small things, or what is actually used in corporate, right? All of this machine learning models that comes way down in the requirement list. Right. So if you are into data analytics, business analytics, the first and foremost thing that you need to know is one programming language, so that you can work with data frames. You can work with data. The second very important thing is to be able to work with databases. You need to know. I cannot even emphasize on how important being able to know SQL is. It is an instant winner. If you have 4 of these things listed in your resume, I trust me, you will have a very good impression on your recruiter, and he will be looking at you very seriously. He will give recruiting you a very serious thought, right? If you are able to put SQL, because many people just put SQL, but they do not know the actual details. They do not know how to. They do not know what are joins. They do not know what is the flow when you write a SQL query. They do not know what are relational databases, what are unrelational databases. They don't know anything about data. They just know that given a data frame that I get, I can work on it. And when it comes to machine learning models, they can blindly just call that model and just implement that model there. But that's not how corporate works, right? When you want to work in companies, you need to know the entire process. Like, from a database, how are you going to retrieve the data? Once you have that data, you cannot directly feed into. So there are 2 types of analysis, right? One is a quick and dirty analysis, and one is a detailed analysis. The detailed analysis goes into coding, and the quick and dirty analysis is done using advanced Excel. So when I say advanced Excel, pivot tables, VLOOKUP, power pivots, graphs, plots, and all of that, right? So to tell you the truth, majority of your analytics will be quick and dirty if you are working in a startup, right? You would be very rarely working with coding because that is what the company requires. But in certain companies, big companies, you'll be working with a particular small portion using Python or R or some other tech stack that they have, right? But again, coming back to what I was saying, knowing SQL is a very, just not writing it in your resume, but actually knowing SQL and learning SQL is very easy. You can be very proficient, be very smart, and be very hands-on with SQL within a week. It's, you will not even require a week. If you sit at it for 2-3 hours a day, you can complete it in 4 to 5 days. You can get a very fair idea of what SQL does and what all you can achieve using SQL. And basically, that is what the recruiter wants, that you have a flavor of all the tools and tech stack that is required. The other one is Excel. Excel is a very important tool. It is very important that you know how to draw a pivot, you know how to put filters, you know how to delete columns, add columns. These are very small things. But then having that, being able to tell the recruiter that you can actually do that is an add-on, right? You should know how to. So basically, a data analyst experience is basically working on projects that do certain analysis. It's a thing that if you have, it's very good. If you don't, it's okay, because it's a thing that you grow with time, right? It's not that you can do a course and you can be a great data analyst. Being good at data analyst is a thing that you get from experience, right? Another very important tool is a visualization software. You either need to know Tableau or Power BI, or else it will be very difficult for you, because most of these companies will be working with Tableau or Power BI, or else you will be doing all of that visualization using either Python or Excel, right? It depends on the company, but it does not harm be to have this in your resume and to have that knowledge. The next very important thing is being able to work with PPTs. The PPT that you have in front of you, this was made in 2 minutes. The reason I said let's shift it for 2 minutes was because I was making this PPT. So quickly being able to know what to show, what not to show, what should be highlighted, what should be how does a basic presentation. So all of these skills do not actually go into your resume. These are very important when it comes to you presenting yourself in front of that recruiter, and it actually shows, right? It shows in your conversations. You can actually tell them that I'm really good at presentation skills. They'll give you a particular case study, and then you can, just tell them what is important, what is not, and how your approach would be, and that would actually sell, right? And yeah, one more good thing to have on your resume would be GitHub. Like, how to what is it called? I think it's called kind of a project management thing, where you know that for a given code you can work with versions. You know what is push and what is pull, right? So I think I've fairly covered up a bunch of stuff here, where what is important and what is not when it comes to resume, and how to go about filling the resume. So I think, yeah, I think that was it from my side. If you guys have any questions, please feel free, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So all those that have a question for sir can raise their hand. I will provide them with access to the microphone and they can then ask their questions. All those who have a doubt can raise their hands.
Cool. I think that's it then.
That,
Yeah.
thank you. This
So yeah, thanks, Rambagam, to have me. I think we have a few questions.
Thank you so much, sir. We hope that the insights shared by you will help accelerate the analytics career of our participants. The recording will be shared with you, and I guess two people have questions.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute. Yeah, Aditya, I've given you the right to the mic to ask your question. Something happened. Gur Siddharth, you can go forward with your question.
Hi, am I audible?
Hi. Yeah, you are.
Hi, Sai Krishna. Yeah. So
Hi,
like
Krishna.
if we have used like some libraries of Python in different models, like in different projects, same libraries. So is it
Hmm.
like optimal to like put same libraries in different projects, or should we highlight the different libraries in like different projects?
So
Like should
basically,
we
when it
repeat?
comes to, huh, sure, go see that. I'll just answer that. So what you're trying to show in your resume is the vast kind of knowledge that you have right now. If you have worked on maybe multiple projects within the same libraries, it wouldn't be most advisable to put all those projects. Rather, think of certain projects which require some other libraries, and maybe that can be a good selling point for you. And if you have worked on multiple projects with the same libraries, you can put a few up there, but I wouldn't suggest you putting all those projects with the same libraries, because once they know that you have worked with a particular set of libraries and the tech stack, they get to know about that using a few questions, right? So the purpose the purpose of putting that particular library and tech stack would be the same if you put it in one project or 10 projects, right? So it's on you whether you want to summarize it one project or you want to take up the space of 10 projects.
Okay, okay.
Cool.
If any of you have any
Yeah,
questions,
one more question I have.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
I
go for
speak? Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So So, like, is it necessary to do like models on the basis of deep learning or CNN or etc.?
Uh, Actually, when it comes to data analysis, you do not actually require those. You might require deep learning when you are building models. So it's all very recruiter specific, right? You There is no hard and fast rule, because some of my colleagues are working on deep learning, but my resume does not have deep learning projects, right? It's good to have. You can have one project or one certification for that, or maybe some experience that you have with deep learning. So what I would suggest is, you should cover all of that, but in a basic version. So let's say you should have a fair amount of idea working with statistics. You should have a fair amount of idea working with machine learning, with deep learning, right? Was what that so What that does is that gives the recruiter a flavor that he knows certain things. Is that knowledge required in my company or not, is a secondary thing, but you're making a resume to come. So you need to look at the people you're competing with, right? If those people are having, so they are somewhere or the other getting an edge over you, right? If you don't have the time to prepare for it, then do not put it. But if you have the time, then I would suggest that you put basics on machine learning, basics on deep learning, some neural network. The best way to put projects in your resume is doing comparative analysis. So that serves two purposes. One purpose is you are able to showcase multiple methods and multiple models in one particular project, and again it takes less space. And because it's a comparative analysis, you just need to know certain levels of basically a basic version of all those models and not a very deep knowledge, right?
Okay.
One question I also had is
Yeah,
wanted to
then.
ask. So, it's a two-part question. First is, what are the necessary requirements in like you knowing certain tests, t-test or other tests, knowing certain regression models, working with those data sets and all.
I lost you, Trembakam. Your voice is breaking on mine.
Yeah,
Can you
is
come
it
again?
better now?
Yeah. Can you come again?
So the first part of the question is, what are the statistics tools that you need to know? Is it the regressions, the t-tests, all the tests? Is it enough, or do you need something more apart from all this?
So when it comes to statistics, right? So there's a very limited amount of knowledge that you need to know. But what is important is you need to know why are you knowing those topics, right? So basically, you should know mean, median, mode, of course, and you should know why is mean important, right? Then you should know the distributions. As I told you, why you should know distribution is because to able to analyze uh, the data. So you cannot use any model on any type of data, right? Once you know what kind of the data you have, then you can think on how to work on it, right? So that is one thing. You should know basics on MLE, maximum likelihood estimator, and all of those things. And then again, when you work on these distribution, you will again come across certain tests, right? Like R squared test, set score, precision recall, accuracy, chi-squared test. So it's fine if you know a small idea about it. What is more important to know is why is that actually important, right? When it comes to statistics or when it comes to data analysis, why those terms are actually, what is the significance with those things?
Okay. And the second part of the question is again linked to this machine learning idea, because I think statistics and machine learning are fairly linked. So, what is
Hmm.
the level of proficiency would one need for machine learning, say? Because if one is
Right.
taking, most of the participants also I had, like, they hadn't taken
Hmm.
machine learning class. So, if you have not
Correct,
not
correct.
taken machine learning class, so what is the kind of proficiency? I guess they have 6 months out. So, what is the
Yeah.
proficiency developed to
Yeah.
have better
Yeah,
level?
that's a very good question, sir. That's a very good question. So there are two approaches to learning machine learning, right? To actually understanding that. One is a very statistical approach, right? That was taught in I think computer science course, but that is required for those guys who want to crack data science roles, right? Or who want to crack something related to research kind of roles. For a data analyst, it's not very necessary for that person to know the actual math behind it, but that person should know, let if that person is working with, let's say, some particular of a model, he should know that he should have the capability of being able to tweak it, like let's say hyperparameter tuning, or if you're working with neural nets, then you should know what a node is, right? You should know why the function of that node is the way it is. Then you should know what is the significance that it'll have if I put 10 layers, or if I put one layer, if I put 10 nodes in a layer, if I put two nodes in a layer or not. Now let's say if that person is working with decision trees, that person should know that how will putting 10 layers of decisioning put in my decisioning 10 nodes put work with my decision tree model as compared to putting two nodes. And very good sources to read this is these three websites that I could tell you. One, it is Analytics Vidya, one is Geeks for Geeks, and basically just read articles, right? It's very less time to go through uh, go through a course. If you want, you can go through courses. There are very good courses also, but frankly speaking, I did most of my machine learning in 1 week, and then I did not go back reading into it. Most of the machine learning that I know is through reading articles, and that actually helps you understand this in a flow. Because if you read a particular article, then you can then you have suggested articles, and then those link with each other, then you get a fair understanding of why is something written the way it is written, right? Does that answer your question, Triambakam?
Yeah, it does answer my question. Thank you, sir. I
Yeah.
think
So
Kelvin.
if I just wanted to add on to it, like if you have, let's say, 6 months, you can take up a course. But what is most crucial is to finish that in 1 month, because
Hmm.
knowing it and being able to use it are two very different things. And I would suggest that you work a lot with the data and get hands-on experience, because uh, these two things will easily be differentiable from a recruiter, because he'll ask you very specific questions for a given project that you put up. He can ask you two questions and understand whether you've actually worked on that data set or not. Because not everything that you can understand from these articles and from these courses, like there are some things that you understand only when you work with the data. So you need to have these hands of experience, and the earlier you go through these models, the better it is, and the more time you'll have to work on your models.
Thank you, sir. I guess Kelvin has a question.
Yeah.
Uh, Kelvin, you are now on mute. You have the mic control. You can ask the question.
Yeah. Hello, sir. I just have a question.
Yeah, hi Calvin.
How
Yeah.
different is preparing for? Yeah. Hello. How different is preparing for a data science or a data engineer role from preparing for a data analyst? Is it an extension of what you'll be doing, or is it completely different? And like, can you in short
So if
explain
so,
how do you go about it? Yeah. That's my question.
Sure. So basically, firstly, a data engineer and a data scientist are two very different roles, right? What does a data engineer do? A data engineer works on the back end of a data. He does not actually work with the data. So all of this creation of databases, right? Then these solution architect, all of those things, AWS solution architect, Google architect, all of those things come under data engineering team, right? So that comes basically as a tech team part of a way. But when it comes to data science and data analysis, if you are preparing for a data scientist role, you can it's very easier for you to appear for data analyst roles, right? Because once you know the model through and through, you can give the recruiter a summarized view of the model as well, right? But you know the summarized version, you cannot give that particular recruiter a mathematical explanation. So for data scientist roles, I have seen that they want to see that if you know the math behind it, right? Let's say that you have a question on logistic regression, right? They want you to know that why is logistic regression a regression model even though it's used for classification, right? Then they want to know the math behind it, right? Why is it called logistic regression? Then yeah, then these kinds of things. When it comes to deep learning, they want you to know how it is functioning, what are the actual functions in a particular node, what are the different types of functions, which particular function would serve your purpose the best, right? All of those things. So coming
Okay.
back to
Thank
your
you, sir.
question, preparation of a data scientist role comes from a more mathematical approach and a statistical approach, right? Understanding that particular model in a more statistical way, and your interviews would be aligned in that way, and your work will also be aligned in that way. But for a data analyst role, you just need to know a fair idea of, so what you need to know is the use cases for every model, right? When can you use a particular model and when can you not, different types of databases, because only then you can analyze the model, right? And one very important aspect when it comes to data analysis is this term called exploratory data analysis, right? It's called EDA. So I would suggest you guys go on Google and check this thing out. It's a very important thing, having this on your it's a very basic thing, but it's very important when it comes to data analysis, right? Does that answer your question, Kelvin?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
We will just take this last question from Rohit.
sure,
With you
sure.
have the mic control, you can go forward with the question.
I'm audible.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
are
Rohit.
audible.
Yes, I have two questions. First question is that how much machine learning experience do we require for data analysts? And second one is what type of articles you are saying for machine learning and where do we find it?
Sure. So the easiest answer to this question is more the merrier, right? The more exposure you have to working with models, working with data, the more confident the recruiter will be in hiring you, right? But the if you want to know the minimum amount, right? So let's say that you have certain idea about supervised models, like you know what are those different types of models, right? You know the names, you know why are they used, when are they used, how are they used, right? And it's very easy working with models, right? If you only want to know a fair amount about the models, it's very easy. What is more important than using that model is creating your data in a fashion where you can use that model, right? So I would like to answer this in two parts. One is working with the data, and that is very important. You should actually work a lot on getting the data ready for the model. And second part is you want to know about the different uh, machine learning models, right? So you have just a fair idea of the supervised models, unsupervised models, clustering models, all of those things. Then when it comes to deep learning, CNN, RNN, then maybe a fair idea of NLP, that would go a long way. And it's very easy. You can learn all of this. So I'll tell you, I learned all of the machine learning that I know in 7 days, in less than 7 days actually. So yeah, but I did have a help from one of my friends. But then again, if you just read through these three, four art websites that post up articles, it will help you a lot. So one was Analytics Vidya, one was Geeks for Geeks. So it's very easy, right? So what you do is my screen still visible, Trembakam? Hello.
It's visible. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
opened the room,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So let's say you just put in machine learning, right? And then yeah, then you have this Geeks for Geeks, right? Let's say you put a little decision. Why is decision tree used? Right? If you put like this, then you have a website for IBM. Then you have a website from 365 Data Science. Then you have again Geeks for Geeks, right? Then I can't see analytics there. I'll just check websites. Like, analytics. Uh, yeah. So you just, this is the best link. You just go there. You and yeah, a very the best way to get in touch with data is use Kaggle, right? Go ahead, use Kaggle left and right. Go through. Yeah, Kaggle is the best thing. Yeah, I think there's some other link. Cool. Coming back, I think analytics with yeah, geeks for geeks towards data science. Again, it's very important. Uh, yeah, these three websites towards data science, geeks for geeks, 365 data science, analytics with their IBM. Yeah, these things are enough. Yeah, when it comes to SQL, you can refer W3 schools. For advanced Excel, you can look at any YouTube channel. Just get a data set, work on it, think of some use case and work on it. Just play with the data, right? The more comfortable you are with these tools, it becomes easier for you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sai Krishna sir. We
Sure, sure.
sincerely hope that the workshop has helped the participant with tools and the confidence that they will need. We would also like to express our gratitude to Sai Krishna sir. Thank you, sir, for taking out your time and helping us with the entire process. Abhishek, you can, if you have any question, you can reach out to sir through LinkedIn or mail. We will be sharing anyway the recording with you. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thanks, Samram. Thanks for having me. And all the best, guys. If you need anything, you know where to get in touch with me. I might be a little late on certain occasions, but yeah, I'll definitely respond to all each and every query that comes my way. Chalega? Chalo. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.